minor attracted persons will be an accepted reality, not just in your lifetime, but probably much sooner than that. And I'll tell you why I think that. Minor attracted persons, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know, it's this thing that's going around online. It's abbreviated MAP, and it's a cleaned up term for pedophile. There are some people who have been trying to push pedophilia as a legitimate sexual orientation. Now, some people, especially people on the left who, because this stuff, MAPs, get associated with the LGBT people, they say that this isn't real. MAPs aren't real. They're just trolls. They're right-wing trolls who are just trying to delegitimize the gay community, the queer community, whatever they call themselves nowadays. Just a little note on this. Trannies also weren't a reality. They weren't a thing that anybody thought was going to actually happen. Nobody thought 20 years ago that a majority of Americans would accept as perfectly normal, perfectly rational that we call men women and women men. We refer to people with penises not as men, but as people with penises. This would have been played off for humor 20 years ago, and now it is an absolute reality. And I guarantee that when they were starting to push that stuff, they downplayed the realities of it. They downplayed the actual possibilities that this would be our future. They played diversions. They basically had a Trojan horse of these ideas of transgenderism. And that is possibly exactly what they're doing with minor attracted persons. Now, I'm not saying that this proves that they're absolutely real and that there aren't any right-wing trolls trying to push this idea as sort of an accelerationism, because that no doubt is happening. I'm just saying that when we're just looking at stuff online, we can't know for sure that there probably are legitimate pedophiles who, just to get my ideas out there, deserve the rope. There are probably legitimate pedophiles out there pushing this MAP stuff, glomming onto this idea and thinking, oh, maybe this is my chance. So anyways, the reason I think that these disgusting people will win out is because the same logic that has been applied to the legitimizing of homosexuals and the legitimizing of transgender people in the past, probably 50 years, I'd say it's a good round figure. That same logic applies perfectly well and legitimizes minor attracted persons. Basically, the idea that they've managed to get into the minds of not just left-wing people, but conservatives generally nationwide in America, is that people cannot help who they love. That they are born with this certain innate sexual proclivity that they cannot help in any way, and to deny them the exercising of their will as it regards this sexual proclivity, I think calling it a perversion is probably better, but to deny them their will in this regard is immoral, because they will be destined to a life of dissatisfaction, a life where they can, as they would put it, never be their true self, or as I would put it, where they can't exercise their will fully. And to subject someone to this, especially when it is something that they cannot help, is wrong. It's giving them a bad life when they don't need it. Let me digress quickly onto 2 points. One, we know that a lot of homosexuals, this is unfortunate, I don't want to laugh, but a lot of homosexuals are not so because of nature, rather because of nurture. Because a large portion of homosexuals, gay men specifically, were abused. Something like 84% were abused sexually as children. And this number is infinitesimally smaller in the heterosexual community. So we at least have circumstantial evidence that this is not a purely nurture issue of people being gay. That it's not just, something we can't help. So in second point, it's weird that they say that this is probably something in your DNA. They haven't found the gay gene, but there has to be something in there, something inherent about the person that makes them gay. That you're just born as a dude liking dicks. And there's probably even a gene for it. There's something inherent in the physical makeup of your body that makes you gay. It's just funny that these types of people also tend to deny that such inherent natural qualities based on DNA matter for anything else besides sexual perversions. For instance, your race doesn't matter, your culture doesn't matter, your heritage doesn't matter. These are things you were born with that you can't help. Or I should say, None of these things matter if you're white. If you're black, they matter a whole lot, Disregard any of the white heritage. White people, in fact, have no culture. Black people, you need to take it very seriously. To deny them their culture is violence. So back to the main point. Once you have spread this idea that you can't help who you are sexually attracted to throughout the culture, then all of this other stuff, the homosexuality, the transgenderism, and I will argue next, pedophilia, spreads naturally, spreads logically, follows logically as a result of believing that idea. Combined with one other thing. You have to, of course, have this idea that people are just sexually attracted to certain things because of their nature. They can't help it. And to deny them this is wrong, to deny them the exercising of this will is wrong. You also need a strong propaganda element that denies people the ability to think of the greater evil that may come as a consequence of allowing these practices, of allowing homosexuality and transgenderism. Because, of course, there are much greater societal evils that will spring up once we've got a widespread acceptance of homosexuality and transgenderism and a widespread practice of them. And any rational person would weigh these evils as far greater than the smaller evil of not allowing somebody to exercise their sexual will. But again, if you have this propagandistic element that so amplifies the prior evil and so downplays, hardly even talks about the second evil, then you can shape society's behavior based on that. So in this instance, you just constantly focus on how oppressed gay people are, how hard they had it growing up, and how terrible it is to deny them the ability to exercise their sexual will. And you so downplay any idea, you don't even begin to entertain the thought that homosexuality correlates with the decline of empires, the decline of morals, and the decline of all things good in Western civilization. Because we know, beyond the shadow of any doubt, that homosexuality, transgenderism, or at least the breakdown of traditional male and female roles, occurs in every great civilization and even lesser civilizations towards the end years of their reign, towards the decadent periods, where people become soft and then the empire collapses. I don't know if it's possible to say whether this sexual degeneracy causes the downfall or the downfall causes the sexual degeneracy. We can definitely say they're correlated, and I think it's probably most fair to speculate that that's a little bit of give and take, that they both promote each other. The downfall promotes the homosexuality and vice versa. So there you have it, the two main pieces of this thing. You need to, one, be able to convince people that there are certain inherent sexual proclivities, that it is wrong to deny somebody who has them. And two, you need the ability to downplay the larger evil that people would be preventing by doing so. The problem is basically that people aren't willing anymore to be intransigent. They're not willing to commit this small evil in order to prevent a larger one. They're not willing, basically, to be assholes. People have always recognized, or at least conservatives in the US, I can speak authoritatively on, have always recognized that there is a problem with the promotion and with society generally being okay with homosexuality. But these conservatives, who are the largest contingent by far, population-wise, of the right-wing United States, they never really did anything to actually oppose what they saw, what they knew to be a moral wrong, because they were so browbeaten, because the ability of the media to propagandize is so powerful that they were convinced that it is wrong to oppose these things, because they're reminded every day of how poor little gay Jimmy has it so rough in school. And therefore, we shouldn't put any barriers up to him being a homo. Even though they know Jesus opposes it. Anyways, the point is, I don't think conservatives have any chance of actually opposing minor attracted persons becoming a reality of the mainstreaming of pedophilia. I mean, this is a group that 10 years ago, by and large, was opposed to gay marriage. In fact, Obama, who was left wing even at the time, was opposed to gay marriage. This is a group that 5 years ago probably didn't even know what transgenderism was. And if they did, they would definitely oppose it. But now they call women men and men women. They call, with a straight face, as honest as could be, somebody who has a vagina, was born with a vagina and breasts. I mean, well, we weren't born with breasts, but they call that person a he. I know that pedophilia as an idea really pushes the envelope one step further. But if at this point you have any faith in conservatives, the only ones who would actually oppose this thing, to oppose it, then I don't think you've been paying attention to what they've been doing throughout history. I think when the time comes, if there is an actual concerted effort and not just an effort through trolls and accelerationists to push to mainstream pedophilia, I think it will go through with a few hitches, but not many. I think it'll go relatively smoothly, and they'll slowly roll this thing out. And before you know it, we'll have a whole bunch of new terminology for the mainstream pedophiles. We'll have opinion pieces and movies and all this stuff about how it's not really that bad, how it's all done with free will and an open environment. The kids agree to it and all this stuff. And of course, they'll start off, oh, it's like a kid. Are you kidding me? She's 17 and a half. What do you mean? Next year, oh, she's 16. I mean, in a lot of parts of the world, that's an adult. What do you mean? 15? I mean, you're okay with 16-year-olds. Like, what's different about 15-year-olds? There's nothing different. That's the process. And eventually, it's big. A 7-year-old, yeah, but she agrees to it. I mean, I'm not hurting her. Ask her, and she'll say that she agrees to this. I mean, yeah, she's 7, but what's the big deal? Like, if you don't view that reality as a possibility, you have not been paying attention to the only potential bulwark against this thing, the only group of people large enough to actually resist it in any meaningful way. Conservatives have no backbone. So, mainstream pedophiles, minor attracted persons. I don't care if you think it's a right-wing troll right now. It's not legitimate. It has a very real possibility of going through. If somebody actually pushes for this thing, we will be surrounded by pedophiles within 10 years.